Happy day of a new episode, everyone. Ash here, and I am super excited to get chatting with you all about one place with amazing history that I've been dying to visit for ever. Literally, This episode has been stewing my brain for a long time, and I can't contain it anymore.
I have so many questions. Okay, so you've told me even less about this one than you usually do because you've been distracting me with other episodes.
Yeah.
So usually she's like, I'm talking about a person that's connected to this that you don't know who it is. And I'm like, who is it? But this time she's told me literally nothing. We're talking about a place?
We're talking about a place.
Ooh, okay.
Well, and a person, but a place.
Okay, so I'm imagining somewhere in England or Scotland?
Yep.
I'm close. Okay.
Yeah. And for once in the length of time that we've all known each other, I can literally say that this is actually and truthfully a more wholesome episode.
You're voluntarily coming up with a wholesome episode?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm here for it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
I swear on my life, it's not dark at all. Barely any murder involved one bit.
Barely any. Okay. All right. Okay.
And since Kat is still in the dark about this episode, let me use our affiliation with Greenleaf Geek to give her a little hint.
Okay.
So, while going through Leah's collection, I found a pair of dice that honestly looks perfect for today's topic. They are called We Get It, You're Goth, and have this gorgeous swirl of browns and greens and kind of like an orangey red, which just reminds me of the aesthetic of this interior of this historical place that we're going to be talking about.
Okay, are we... Okay, wait. I'm literally going onto the website to look it up right now. Hang on, We Get It, You're Goth. Hang on. Are we talking about a cathedral or a castle or something?
No.
Okay, because it's got a bit of glimmer and it was making me think of gold like that. Okay.
So the kind of goth black iridescent dice are just as good for this episode as well. And if any of you guys want to check out these dice or any of Leah's other products, please make sure to go to www.greenleafgeek.com/WDYKA podcast or use our code WDYKA podcast at checkout for 10% off your orders. And if you do like this episode and you like the place that we're talking about, just grab these dice and you can feel like you're there.
I'm so curious about where you're taking us today then, because I'm trying to figure out what that could possibly mean.
Well, to further prove my point, no fair dues warning is needed this episode.
What?
I swear, the only warning that you all need is that I'm about to geek the hell right out. Even more than I normally do on these episodes.
I have so many questions. Are you feeling good?
I'm doing fine.
Okay.
You are all welcome and you've been fully warned.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with any of this information.
So, Kat.
Yes.
Let's start off with a question that we've totally forgotten to ask for the majority of the episodes because we just get too ahead of ourselves and jump right into the stories.
True.
What do you know about Mr. Humphrey Chetham?
Literally absolutely nothing. What? Who?
Well, that is a relief, because as we know, one of my top 5 enjoyments is watching Kat learn things that she has absolutely no prior knowledge of. I feel like a game show host. This is great.
Okay. Yeah, no, I have absolutely no context for this. I have no idea who this is.
But even if you did know about Humphrey already, I am still talking about one of my, absolute number one loves in the world. Sorry, Grant, but you knew what you stood when you married me, so there's nothing really being lost.
Oh my gosh.
So, my dear friend Humphrey was born July 10th, 1580 in Crumpsall to Henry Chetham, a successful merchant of Manchester who lived in Crumpsall Hall, and Jane Rowe. In 16... What?
No, I was just low-key, why is this giving me, the Muffin Man backstory vibes? I don't...
He is not the Muffin Man.
No, I know.
I am not and muffins are not my number one love.
Okay, fair enough.
So in 1605, he moved to London with his brother George, where the brothers started trading textiles. Their main trade
Okay.
was in fustian, which was a strong fabric made of a mix of linen and cotton.
Okay.
The brothers were extremely successful in this trade, as they would buy the fabric for cheap in London and then sell it for a much higher price back home in the Manchester area.
Okay. Makes
Humphrey
sense.
was now part of the upper class, having made a fortune and honed his business skills. So the only logical solution was to return home to Manchester and buy a pile of land. In 1620, he bought the 15th century manor house called Clayton Hall.
Okay. Makes
So
sense.
Clayton Hall is now a museum, but it was built for the Clayton family. And then one of the daughters married a Byron, and the house went down through that family line, including Lord Byron, the famous poet, until Humphrey purchased the home. The Chetham
Okay.
family's line owned the home pretty much forevermore, with it starting to be rented out in the late 1800s until it was sold to the Manchester City Corporation in 1897. In 1628, Humphrey made another big home purchase and bought Turton Tower from William Orrell. Another medieval build, Turton Tower was first owned by the Lords of the Manor of Turton. So basically the barony of the 1200s.
Okay.
So like super fucking old building.
Yeah.
The Orrells inherited the property in 1420 and rebuilt parts of the property which were likely damaged in medieval combat, as the home was pretty much built for defense and held many tournaments during the medieval times. After Humphrey purchased the tower, it was passed down his line for quite a while, where they leased it to farmers until it was sold in a state of total disrepair in 1835 to James Kay. The British inventor restored the property before selling it to Elizabeth and Anne Appleton, who leased it to William Rigg, a calico fabric manufacturer, whose daughter Ellen actually wrote this book called Victorian Children at Turton Tower. Unfortunately, I cannot find a copy of the book to read even like the tiniest fragment of it, even though it was republished by the Turton Tower Museum in the 1980s.
Okay.
I did try. I was very sad that I could not find it. But enough about these properties. Let's keep moving along Humphrey's line to get to the property that we really care about. So, the Crown of England found out about Humphrey and his wealth and all of his success. And apparently at this time, if you are super successful, the Crown would like to knight you.
Okay.
So in 1631, they reached out to him and said, "Hey Humphrey, we're impressed with you and wish to bestow knighthood upon you for all of your hard work and monetary success. Congrats, our friend!" And Humphrey's response to that was, "Oh, hey, great, thanks, but I'm gonna say no thank you."
Really?
The Crown was not pleased with that answer, so they respond with, "Well, fine, then we are going to fine you for some of that money that you earned since you don't want our fancy title."
Whoa. Okay. So they were like, so they had the right to fine him, and they were like, no, but we like you, so we're gonna make you knight. And he was just like, why would you say no to that? Like, I don't.
I think we're going to find out later on as to why he said no to that, because I don't think he liked the Crown very much.
Oh God. Okay.
Unless there's something in it for him, because I think with the knighthood, it was just a title. Kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, so it wouldn't have
I don't
been
think it
much
gave
for
him much. I don't think it gave him a lot.
Yeah.
So none of my
Okay.
resources had like a money amount for the fine, which honestly, bookkeeping wasn't always like the first thing on people's minds at this time, and maybe this wasn't fully over the table, which would probably make sense because the Crown probably didn't want to keep record of the fact that someone said no to them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. That's a bit of an ego thing.
Yeah. But then in 1635, Humphrey got another offer. And this one he said,
okay.
"Oh, hell yeah, to."
Okay.
Apparently becoming High Sheriff of Lancashire and actually having some sort of power rather than just a title was a lot more
there it is.
appealing.
That does make sense.
Yep. Then, in 1643, he was put into the position of General Treasurer of Lancashire, which he only did for one term, even though he was up for 2 terms, as he was getting old and just couldn't handle the job aspects longer than the 1 term. Which, fair. During all of this, though, Humphrey was doing something else behind the scenes. Something with his money.
Okay.
He
It
was
sounds like
accruing
something
debts.
shady. He was okay, yeah.
But not to worry, he had another plan for that.
I'm a little worried, but okay.
He was also ferrying money away into another account.
That seems questionable if you're already okay. I mean, yeah, okay.
The government was not going to get any of his money. Oh, hell no.
This guy seems.
Instead, his money was going to be donated to form a school for 40 boys who were on the low income side. This school then became the Chetham Hospital, which is now the Chetham's School of Music. So it started off as a school, became a hospital, and is now a school of music.
Okay.
But no, we still are not at the right place.
Okay.
Oh, no, 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 no. In 1653, Chetham passed away. He was 73, so super old for the time.
Yeah.
And in his will, he very specifically left behind a pile of money for his greatest legacy, as well as for materials to start filling it. So,
with all the money that he doesn't want to give to the king.
Exactly. So basically, I think at this time, if all of your money is like set aside for like a charity thing and stuff, then the crown cannot touch it. So basically, it's like I have all of these debts to the king. I do not want him to have my money, so I'm going to designate all of my money to like these charity things.
Yeah.
That is good for the good of the greater people, and then they can't have my money.
So it's like a donation, like tax break for like the billionaires of today.
Yeah. So really, he was smart.
Okay.
Like he was like, "Fuck you" to the government.
I see.
That's right. So like he hated the government. Right. He didn't want the government to have anything, right?
Yeah, it really sounds like it. Yeah.
But
like even with his legacy, where he's like, "I'm dead. This has nothing to do with me, but I'm still not gonna let you touch my money because I don't like you."
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, his money did a great thing. Okay.
I mean, yeah, he built a school, built a hospital, like
that's right. And then this last one, which is our place that we're really excited about, amazing. I am like over the moon that he did this. I'm like, yeah, it probably wasn't it wasn't really that he wanted this to happen, like because he was like super about like this place that is more of a fuck you to the government. But whatever, it is the most beautiful, most gorgeous place in the world.
Okay.
And I will take it, and I will go to it, and I will spend hours, days, however long they will allow me to basically live there for.
What is this place?
This is the Chetham Library.
Okay, it all makes sense. All right, I get it. Yep, fair enough.
So his will specified that all of his money would be used for the education of the, quote, sons of honest, industrious, and painful parents, and for the use of scholars.
For the use of scholars. Okay, fair enough.
The Chetham Library is literally, and I mean literally, the English-speaking world's oldest public library.
Public, even?
Yep.
Okay.
That's like that. Like,
you said for.
It's for the sons of honest, industrious, and painful parents, which means the poor, basically, in the fancy terms.
Okay, that makes sense, because you mentioned scholars as well, and I was like, all right, so it's primarily a university library, or like an academic library,
no,
though.
It's for everybody.
Okay. So, wait, so this is the
very first English-speaking world's public library.
Oh my god, okay, yeah, no, I understand now, I get it, I understand it.
Yeah. So, for the fun part.
Wow.
We get to talk about the library itself.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the library. Okay,
and Kat can attest that my face is literally lighting up as I'm pretty much getting closer to the computer and bouncing in excitement.
She is very excited. She's so excited.
So let's talk about the actual building that houses the beautiful books that this library holds. So, even though Humphrey established the library upon his death in 1653, he didn't actually have the buildings built from scratch. Instead, the library was placed on the first floor in a 1421 college for priests.
Okay.
His school for the low-income boys was placed in the same building complex. And
Okay.
these buildings are all considered to be one of the most complete medieval complexes to survive in this area of England.
Wow.
So, when you look at photos of the Chetham Library, you'll understand why I picked the dice that I picked at the beginning of the episode. Especially when you look at the reading room. Pretty much every single wall panel or door or bookshelf is this gorgeous dark brown / black wood worn down with age. The oak table is like the same, and the chairs are this gorgeous red leather.
Ooh.
It's a gothic dream. And everything is original to the 1600s when the library was opened. Even like the chairs and everything.
They preserved it all?
Yes.
Holy.
They've like maybe had to do like some restoration work, and like if the woods aren't wood paneling like in like the whole building, then it's just like the original sandstone or the gorgeous plaster work. Like they've just kept it and like kept like constantly just been doing like the restoration and keeping it as original as they can.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So one piece of furniture in the audit room has a very interesting story.
Okay.
So, as I said before, like, before this became a library, it was in a college for priests. So, in 1549, the college that the library is now in was passed to a man named John Dee, who was a scientist, astronomer, mathematician, and philosopher. Basically, he was an overachiever.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Now, John Dee and I had something in common, and you would have steered very clear from him, Kat.
Oh, no.
You don't want him on a list of people to invite to a dinner party, dead or alive.
Okay.
He was well known to have been very intrigued by alchemy and the occult. And it is said that during one of his arcane studies, the devil himself appeared, and his hoofprint was burned into the oak table forevermore. That mark is still there today on said table in a corner of the audit room.
Listen. I don't care what actually happened in that room. I don't care.
I don't know if it actually happened in that room, but it happened on that table.
No, I understand that. If I don't care, like, I mean, like, in the room where it happened. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it wasn't actually the devil himself. I don't care what happened in that room. I want to be nowhere near it. I don't want anything to do with anything like that. Like, that sound, whatever could possibly leave a burn mark like that, I would like to be nowhere near it. Thank you very much. Especially when the story starts with, we were trying to do occulty shit. Like, no, absolutely not. I'm out. I'm tapping out. I'm going home. I'm making myself a nice hot bath. I'm making myself a nice warm cup of tea, and y'all can fight off the devil himself by yourselves, because I'm not sticking around for this. This is why I don't fuck with this shit, dude.
Well, if the devil's footprint doesn't convince you that this is the best library ever...
It really does. It makes me want to run away.
Let me give you the best fact ever about the library's physical build.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of the doors have holes in them. On purpose. Nice round holes, about 3 inches off the ground.
Why?
These holes are just big enough that the many library cats throughout the hundreds of years that this library has been running can fit through to have free range through their domain.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Wait, that's the best library cats. Wait, hang on. That's so, oh, no, I love that. See, this is what I mean when I say cats are made for libraries. Like, that's...
Like, every library in the world should take fucking note.
Seriously.
Because as we talk more about these books and how obsessive the people who ran this library were about the books, they still had kitties like every fucking library should.
Well, that makes sense, because it'd keep the mice out. And, like,
exactly.
That's what you want.
Well, there's even a blog post on the Chetham Library site about finding a book that had been partially eaten by mice, where they talk about the doors, as well as how they found a collar and a bell that was worn by one of the library cats from the 1960s. Like, bring back the library cats!
Wait, that's so cute!
Like, they still have a pile of feral cats that are running around that are allowed to come through the goddamn library!
Oh, that's so cute. They're working cats.
Because the library, like, it's surrounded by, like, little canals and, like, things like that. So, like, there's a lot of mice around. Just naturally.
Oh.
So you need the babies to kill the little babies so they don't eat the books.
Oh no, that's so cute.
And so every library needs a baby to protect the books.
I agree. Every library should have a cat. I'm going to start taking my cats to the library.
And if people have a problem with it, take an antihistamine.
Oh.
Right, Simba?
My cats are both napping on the cat tree beside me, like, we are not going anywhere. You sit back down. Like,
Yeah, like Simba would just growl and hiss at everybody who tried to touch a book.
Don't even.
But let's get to the books that these sweet little babies protect. So, at the time of the library being established, there was nowhere for people to independently study in Northern England.
Mm.
So it was a major goal to become a rival of Oxford and Cambridge. And Chetham wanted to make sure that no one was going to mess with this goal. So he had a very specific instruction in his will for how the library would run.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they were under strict instruction that absolutely no one would be charged with using the library. Zero barriers to the knowledge. But the books were definitely not going to be walking anywhere.
Yeah.
In 1655, 3 governors were appointed to choose the books, manuscripts, and archives that would be housed in Chetham's library. So most of these tomes were purchased from one particular London bookseller, and then carefully packed into old barrels to be transported to the Manchester area. So for the first 30 years, these books were all mainly based in theology, law, history, medicine, and science. Once they arrived, the librarians would then make a list of what arrived, but before placing them on the bookshelves, at that time called presses, where they would be chained to the press in size order.
Right, okay.
Large books would be on the bottom with the small books on top. Stools with S-shaped handholds would be provided as mobile seating that readers would then carry around with them to sit in front of the press to read the chained book at. Which is kind of fun. Just take your chair with you and go find your book.
Listen, it's elaborate, but considering how expensive and like how time consuming it was to put some of those early manuscripts together, I kind of understand it. Like,
right?
We had some very pricey, I'm gonna choose my words very carefully here. Just because I'm talking about the day job and I want to be really careful doing that. But we had some very pricey pop-up books that we had on display so that the kids could like come in and look at them and stuff like that. Every single one of them. These are expensive, detailed, like the really ornate pop-up books, you know? Like every single one of them ended up getting torn. And it's like, okay, when stuff like that happens, I kind of get it. I kind of get it. If you think of every book in the library being like written out by hand, you said 1600s?
Yeah, so the printing press was around, but they were expensive.
Yeah, it was still like new technology. Like books still weren't being like mass produced nearly at the same scale as they were today. Like books were pricey. They were pricey things.
Ooh, yeah. So there was no actual catalog system until 1791.
I can't imagine working in a library with no catalog system whatsoever. Like, I no.
And even then, it was still done by subject and size, and in Latin.
Okay.
So really, only the librarians could understand the system. So really, nothing has changed in the library world, because still, only librarians really understand the system.
Listen, I love it when people are genuinely curious about how it works and like genuinely want to know, though, because I'm like, yeah, like I really appreciate the people who really want to learn, but there are so many people who come in. I'm looking at a book on the subject. How does this work? And I'm like, oh, so that'll be in this number. Oh, why? Oh, okay, so that's like a long story.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and like, there's multiple
like,
different.
It takes some explaining.
And like, you have the Dewey Decimal System, but then use other cataloging systems still other than the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah, Dewey Decimal is
Like,
the
it's
most
not
common
the
for North
only
American public
system
libraries.
that we have to deal with
Yeah.
as librarians. So
No.
sometimes even librarians don't understand the system.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few particularly common ones, but like listen. In a past job, which I'm pretty sure I can talk about, like now that it's a past job, I worked in a university library, and in North America, this is going to be library facts that no one cares about but us. But like in North America, the two most common library cataloging systems are Dewey Decimal and Library of Congress. Why is it called Library of Congress? Well, literally because it was the American Library of Congress's own cataloging system that they came up with for their library specifically. And then when people were like, hey, we don't really like the Dewey system anymore, there's got to be something better, they just kind of took it and acted like it should apply to everybody's system, which doesn't necessarily actually make sense depending on the size of your library, because it's almost too specific.
Yep.
Dewey Decimal is great if you're not getting like into like very like super specific, like very like detailed information. It's a great overview of like generally any topic. But like if you're getting into like the really like niche conversations, which university libraries are often more likely to do. For example, if you have like a medical library and every single book is a medical book in the Dewey Decimal System, they'd all be within. I'm just rambling about like I should shut up. But like basically it doesn't matter. The point is like it's much more specific than Dewey is, and I don't have to explain how all that works right now. But like,
I just like how some libraries have just completely done away with any system like that, like of like, the number system, and they're just like, here's the subject, here's like the general like subjects in that subject, like cooking, vegan cooking, gluten-free cooking. It's in alphabetical order. Here you go. We're going to remove the barriers of numbers and shit. Here is the layman's person's brain.
Like sorting it like a bookstore, more like a bookstore than a library kind
and
of
stuff, right? Like, kind of, here you go.
I kind of understand that.
Just go find your book.
Yeah, no, it's like the Library of Congress system. Like I worked in a university library that used it, and it is so nonsensical to me. I went to university to learn this shit. Yeah. I went to school for this. And I still don't know that I could totally understand. Like a Dewey Decimal System is easy. I have that shit memorized, to be entirely honest. Like I use it on the day-to-day. It's very handy information to just have at the front of my brain. Library of Congress is so like they use letters, but then also they use numbers, but then they use cutters, and that's a whole other thing where they're using letter or numbers instead of letters because reasons, I guess. And like it's so just like complicated. Like it's so overly complicated. Well, and like
your next
letters,
challenge,
they have like the general overview of like which subject you're talking about. Law is K. I don't know why. Like it's like alphabetical, but then the letters that are assigned have nothing to do with what the subject actually is. Like none of it makes any sense, and it's so like
your next challenge then.
So much.
Your next challenge then is to do it in Latin.
I can't imagine. Library of Congress practically is Latin to me. Like I hate it so much. I have strong opinions on this. Ben can attest to this. I have ranted about this subject before, especially while I was in school trying to learn it. Like, I have ranted about this before. I will rant about it again. I need to shut up right now because no one else cares about this but me. But, like, it's dumb and I hate it.
Well, by the 18th century, the book population started to outgrow the system. And so the shelves were changed, and so was the system. Mm-hmm. Chaining the books was also changed, with gates being put into place instead, and a reading room being put into action. Books would then be brought out by the librarian to the reading room, and then returned by the librarian to the presses. The shelves still have traces of the hinges and plates for the chains, and the reading room process is still in use at the library for those who are using the library and not there on a tour.
Wow.
Which completely and utterly makes friggin' sense, and I am here for it.
They're all old manuscripts.
Because they're all freaking old. And beautiful.
Yeah.
So, there are still chained books, however, in the library. This is because Chetham also had the idea of parish libraries, where all the books would be chained to their own two-story presses. There were to be 5 libraries total, but one library never got finished. The purpose was to buy godly English books for the edification of the common people. So the library for Gorton, which was the first to be completed at 51 works, and the Turton Library are the only 2 to survive. Not too shocked about the Turton one, since he owned Turton Tower.
Fair.
As I said before, one was never finished, but then one was dispersed in 1830, with most of the books going to various secondhand bookstores, and the other was partially found in a chained library given to the Bolton School by James Lever in 1694, instead of going to the Bolton Parish Library as intended.
Okay.
In 1984, the Gorton chained library was given to the Chetham Library as a loan and then fully purchased in 2001 with the help of a lottery grant. It is currently on display, and I believe that if you're researching, you can actually read some of the books from the collection at the original press with the chained books.
Okay.
And numbers time!
Yay.
So, normally Numbers and I are not super friends, but these numbers excite me. So Chetham's separates their collection into a few categories. So we're going to talk about them, how they categorize them in the order that they have listed on their website. First of all, manuscripts. So they categorize artifacts like diaries, letters, account books, and royal manuscripts into this collection. And they estimate that they have over 40 medieval manuscripts, plus more from more modern holdings. Modern basically meaning after the medieval period.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Not meaning like modern as in like today modern. They specialize in the history of Northern England, including having the oldest history of Manchester from 1656, as well as the first ever census of Manchester from 1773 to 1774. One of the diaries that I found that they have, which I thought was interesting, is the diary of James Miller. Miller was a rebel and immigrant, and his diary is actually a first-hand account of his time in the military during a stint in India.
Okay.
So, when it comes to printed books, they hold over 120,000 items, with over half of them being printed before 1850.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I would be a puddle on the floor in absolute happiness inside of this library.
That's a lot. That's a lot of... Wow.
Especially when most of the books that were purchased at the time were bought second-hand.
Whoa.
So this
really?
means that they have amazing stories behind them in general.
Yeah, that the books, like, themselves have a story of how they got there, yeah.
Yeah. One example that the Chetham website gives is that their version of Plato was Ben Jonson's personal friggin' copy. For those of you who aren't major English literature nerds, like Kat is shaking her head at me, Ben Jonson was a major playwright in the late 1500s, early 1600s. He is generally figured to be the second biggest playwright after Shakespeare for this time period.
Whoa.
It is even said that he and Shakespeare had a crazy rivalry and loved to engage in lively debates at the Mermaid Tavern. Yes, I see that smile as soon as I said Mermaid Tavern.
Just Mermaid Tavern is just a delightful name for a tavern, I'm not gonna lie.
So, another book with a provenance that we all know more about is a 1536 copy of Prosper of Aquitaine that is bound in white deerskin for King Henry VIII.
No way. Gosh.
So this book was somehow only purchased for 8 shillings in 1674. It's worth a shit ton more now, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. In 1674, I'm, like, considering who it belonged to, I'm surprised that it wasn't, like, worth even more than 8 shillings at that point. Like,
but just think about going into this library, sitting down, and reading a copy of a book that was literally owned by King Henry VIII.
Yeah, like, I don't even know how I feel about that, to be honest. Like, I almost feel like I shouldn't be able to do that.
Right? So, while some of the books were purchased for super cheap at the time, printed books were actually usually quite expensive, and it was a price that those in charge of the library were willing to pay. So they were paying up to £20 for some of the books, including an 8-volume Bible. To put that in perspective, librarians at the time were being paid £10 plus lodging per year of work.
Plus lodging. Plus lodging is nice.
Yeah.
£10 plus lodging per year. Holy.
Yeah. So basically, for the price of an 8-volume Bible, you could pay 2 librarians a year, like per year.
Well, and that kind of makes sense because they had to understand this godforsaken system that's like in Latin and also like.
Yeah, but like that's they were only being paid £10, like for the entire year, but you're paying lodging. £20 for an 8-volume Bible.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how much books were costing them, pretty much for right. Like that's how much money that they were willing to shell forth for all of these, like for a pile of these books.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So the librarians, were they paying for it like out of their own pocket then?
No, so Chetham had put in a pile of money.
Okay.
And then I don't know how else they were probably getting money other ways and stuff like that.
Fundraising and whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
Or other like noble people, like if you had other like noble scholars and stuff coming in, they might have also put in money and stuff like that over the years once Chetham's money ran out.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so basically any book that was a major work and a major subject was hunted down for Chetham's library. And if it wasn't translated into English, no worries. That's what the margins are for.
Oh my gosh, no way. They did not.
So this is most evident in one of the most important history books in the collection. The Nuremberg Chronicle from 1493 was translated into English in the margins sometime in the 16th century, making this literally the only English translation of this book.
Oh my god. Wow. And it's all just like sketch or like handwritten into the margins on the edge of the book.
Yeah.
That would annoy me so much. Imagine trying to read an entire book like that. Like, wow.
But it's the only English translation of this book. So the only way that we can even know today what it's saying really is from this translation. Like,
yeah, that's fair. Good grief. Yeah.
Which is insane. I'm like, they must have freaking large margins.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that too. And we know that, like, some of them did and stuff, but, like, at that point, just write it in a whole other book. You know what I mean? Like,
no, like, they loved writing in the margins. They loved writing in the margins at this time.
You could have pulled out a notepad.
No!
Like, that would just be so, like trying to read that.
So, another major historical work that you can find is Christopher Saxton's Atlas of 1579, which is the first ever printed atlas of England and Wales.
Oh, okay. Cool.
If we have any literature nerds out there, you also might want to come run to Chetham's library with me, as this is where you will find a lot of key first edition copies of books from a variety of cultures. Do you nerd out over Greek literature? You'll find a copy of Homer from 1488.
Oh my god, wait.
Latin? Gently flip through Plutarch's Lives from 1577.
Oh my god.
Want something super weird feeling? See if they will allow you to read Milton's Paradise Lost from 1667 on the Demon Footprint table.
Whoa, yeah, that would feel weird.
That would be so much friggin' fun. Are you an absolute word definition nerd? Great! Then you definitely want to ask for Samuel Johnson's Dictionary of the English Language from 1755. While doing my notes, I decided to literally randomly find a word from his dictionary, and the one that I got was super picked towards my usual self. Periosteum. All the bones are covered with a very sensible membrane called the periosteum. Out of curiosity, I did another click of the random word button, and I got practice limb. So either the majority of this dictionary is morbid, or it just knows me really well.
Oh my gosh.
If you also want to check out Samuel Johnson's dictionary, like online, I have the link in the show notes. You can also just do the random word button and see what it says for you. So the last...
That does actually kind of sound like fun.
It actually is kind of fun. So the last category that they have for their collection is called Documents of Everyday Life. This is their collection of ephemera, which includes book plates, postcards, theater programs, trade cards, etc. Many of these were given to them by Shakespeare historian James Orchard Halliwell Phillips in 1852. All 3,100 plus artifacts that he gave them. Yeah.
Is that enough, do you think?
So, I found one of his items, which is a song, that I'm going to send over to Kat, because she is the one in the friendship who actually sang it, though I'm only expecting her to read it out loud and not actually sing it, because I think you're going to really enjoy this one.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't read, like...
I think you can...
I can't sight read notes. Oh, see song set. Hang on. Let me open in browser so I can see it better. Hang on. Yeah, no, I definitely cannot sight read. I'm not that skilled of a musician. I am.
No, but I figured you could at least... you might like to read it out loud, because it is definitely catered towards you.
This does make me want to pull up my keyboard and kind of like just plunk it out a little bit, though. It's a sea song set by Mr. Bedford Aldrich. Gear up, my brave hearts. Cheer up, my brave hearts. What though the winds cross though the seas. Cross though the seas? It's got some weird capitalization going on here. Hang on.
Yeah, it's old. It's from 1729.
Gear up, my brave hearts. Cheer up, my brave hearts. What though the winds cross though the seas do delight our frigate to toss, though Neptune and Boris together agree to rowl, toss and tumble us. To rowl, toss and tumble us. There's like a riff there, so it goes like That's not how it goes. That's not even a little bit, but like, you know what I mean. Toss and tumble us about in the sea. Though 1 minute the skies we do vault, and what's more the next in deep graves. We're salt seas? Salt seas. The note is crossing over the letters as well. That's causing problems for me.
I know, right?
It's like the note should not be covering the lyrics. Why would you do this? Why would you do this to me? In deep graves, where salt seas do rowl, or yet despair, not bold Boris shall blow out his blast, and the wind and the sea and the wind and the sea will be kind to all. Will be kind to at last. Will be kind to at last. And then it's got another verse. Kind zephyrs shall gently those mountains allay, and beat down those waves which obstructed our way. Then Neptune, whose frowns in his rage cured the ocean, shall return with a smile and smooth all its motions. That's cheesy as hell, but okay. While neatly our keel does divide the salt seas, and sweetly we steer to the harbor of ease, where thanks we'll return in a jolly full bowl, all safety to those whom the ocean does roll. Okay, I like it.
Right?
I do want to hear what it's supposed to like sound like tune-wise.
Well, if you figure it out, then we can maybe put it up on our Instagram. Then at some point, we can maybe put it up on our Instagram page.
Listen, I sing by ear, and I taught myself how to play guitar in like high school. Like this is all I know. Like I'm not a musician really. I'm just an admirer. But actually, you know what though? I do have a friend who is very, very good at playing the piano, and if I sent her this, she probably could play it.
Yeah. So send it to her, and then we can put it up on our Instagram and actually like hear what it would have been.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, I've got the weirdest request for you.
Do it, and then we can put it up on the Instagram, and then everybody can find out what this song would have been from 1729.
All right, bet.
All right. So, now that we've had that cheerful sea song,
Sea shanty.
the last bit of information that I want to give about Chetham's library is this. Remember that libraries are places to share knowledge. It doesn't matter what type of knowledge. We can't be gatekeepers. Chetham especially was never a gatekeeper of knowledge. No membership was ever needed, and it has stayed that way. Anyone can come and study by appointment during open hours, and tours are run for those who want to see the library without having a need to study any of the materials. And there is one specific window nook that is oogled at with mixed feelings. This nook is where two men in the summer of 1845 would sit and meet to talk and share ideas. Fake copies of the economic books that they would sit and pore over sit on the table daily. A certain group of people now consider this library and this nook in general as a very important historical site. That is because these two men sat at this nook and basically wrote their famous book together that changed history and society forever.
Which two men and which book are we talking about?
This is exactly where Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels came up with the idea for the Communist Manifesto.
Whoa. In this library?
In this exact little nook.
Holy. I was gonna say, like, that's a bold claim, saying that's, like, that two guys talking changes the world, but no, like, literally, like, that's...
Quite literally.
That has some major, like, yeah. Whoa. Okay.
Like, libraries and knowledge can change the world for the good and for the worst.
Yeah.
But no matter what, that it's just a place to go and share knowledge. Like, you can't gatekeep.
No, libraries are a neutral ground. Like,
it's a neutral ground. Like, anybody can come. It's like, you can't blame the library. You can't blame the librarians.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's not like the information is out there. Yeah. Libraries are a means of making sure everybody has access to that information, right? Like, libraries are a means of trying to even the playing field when it comes to who knows what and who has access to what education and who has access to what information. Like, that's specifically public libraries. That's what they're for. The knowledge, the gaining of the knowledge is the neutral act. It's what you do with the knowledge afterwards that can be good or bad.
Yeah.
But the gaining and the curating of the knowledge is just a lot more. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, like, we still have the Communist Manifesto. We still have Mein Kampf, like, in publication.
Oh, totally.
And
totally. You
it's
can find
perfectly
Mein Kampf online
fine
for free as an ebook. Like,
well, and so the same thing with, like, the Communist Manifesto, right? Like, they're still circulating in libraries and things like that because it's still a perfectly fine resource because it's also a way to understand how these events happened, what was going on in those people's brains, right? Like, why they did these things. Like, how did we get to this point? Like, if we just completely ignored it, then it's possible to happen again.
Well, I mean, it's possible to happen again.
No matter what.
Regardless, I would argue.
No matter what, it's possible to happen again. But if we just ignore it, it's even more possible to happen because we're just completely and utterly oblivious to why.
Yeah, no one's doing anything about it, and it's like just kind of sticking your head in the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, this nook is now, like, you can't actually go and, like, sit and study in this nook. It's basically just, like, a little exhibit, almost, to stuff, right? Like, because it's so, like, a pile of people want to go see it as to, like, where Marx and Engels sat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, and stuff, right? So they just have, like, the fake copies of these books that just sit out and stuff, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, like, this is part of our history.
Yeah. Like, this exists as well. Yep.
And stuff, right? Like, we're not gonna hide it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah. So yeah, that is the history and legacy of Chetham's library. And I will try to remember to post some photos and share some reels that I've seen about the library on our Instagram page, because holy crap, it is just gorgeous and absolutely everything. Especially the kitty doors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because otherwise, like, if you're going to have kitties in the library, they need access to everything.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, like, cats hate closed doors.
They
They need all the
absolutely
doors
hate
to
it.
be open.
So just cut a hole
Is that right?
in all your doors.
Yeah, no, I'm sure my landlord would love that.
So yeah, if you have a chance, like I am planning, go for a tour at least. Luckily enough, I can easily find a reason to need to study something from the library. So whenever my husband and I go to England to visit his family, I will be booking an appointment to use the reading room or the audit room and actually have my hands on some of these historical artifacts. And Grant can just go find something else to do. Although I'm pretty sure he would probably also find something that he wants to look at.
I'm certain he'd find something he'd find interesting there. Like,
Oh yeah, like he also loves like ancient literature and stuff like that, so he would probably find some stuff too.
yeah. Yeah, he'd find something.
And he would also probably be there to watch to make sure I didn't like try to steal anything. Just knowing me, that he'd be like, do not try to bring home any of these items.
It sounds like they've got everything locked down pretty tight, but...
And he would also be there to make sure that I actually left the building.
Well, that part's true. That part's true for sure.
So yeah, we're off to get cozy with some more modern good books, daydreaming that we are inside of a beautiful library like this one.
Uh-huh.
But in the meantime, we will see you guys all on the weird side of history.
See you next time. Bye!